you've never had a track record of doing things well, or, having success and having things take off, it's very scary to then keep putting money into something else that may work, and you start to possibly doubt yourself. But you have to be able to move from one opportunity to the next, or one mistake to the next. But nowadays with technology and software, there are AI automation where if a guest says anything along the lines of, hey, I can't get in, or the lock is not working, it can automatically catch that and send a instruction on how they can get in using the lockbox and where it's located and all that stuff, even without us having to, respond or give them a call. In terms of feedback from a lot of people that I talk to when I go to mastermind, when I go to events, is that a lot of them want to get into this space, but they get analysis paralysis, and they do the underwriting, they do all the work, but even though they get to the numbers that they think is correct, they don't trust themselves because they've never done it before.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back. If you're building a business, buying back your time, or scaling real estate income streams, you're in the right place. Quick favor, hit the subscribe button down below, leave a comment, and share this with someone. What if your first year in short-term rentals could change your income without burning you out? Most people don't fail in real estate, they get stuck in analysis paralysis. If you ever wondered how to create a world-class guest experience and build systems that scale, today's episode is for you. Welcome to the Dream Start Home podcast. I'm your host, Edgar the Connector, and today we have Hung Mai from VIP Kasa Rentals.
What's going on, guys?
So, Hung, you're a short-term rental investor and host?
Yeah.
Great. And you're big on systems and SOPs, huh? Not just you doing it all by yourself?
No, for sure. I cannot do it by myself. I think I would probably go crazy if I did it all by myself, to be honest, at this point.
And a lot of your delegation is to deliver world-class guest experience for your short-term rentals and some mid-term rentals?
Yeah. I mean, most of what we do now is, we do co-hosts, but we are about to launch something where we help people launch their own Airbnb. So that's kind of what we're working on right now.
Oh, nice. Kind of like a done-for-you system?
Yeah, exactly.
Great. I think a lot of people would like that, especially those high income worth people that need tax breaks. It's one of the biggest reasons to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, from what I've gotten in terms of feedback from a lot of people that I talk to when I go to mastermind, when I go to events, is that a lot of them want to get into this space, but they get analysis paralysis, and they do the underwriting, they do all the work, but even though they get to the numbers that they think is correct, they don't trust themselves because they've never done it before. And so we came up with something where we take the guesswork out of it, and essentially we will help them find it, set it up, and then help them, ongoing management for it as well. So that way there's kind of no guesswork, and, they don't have to fail forward. Instead, they'll just go right into it, and they don't have to self-manage it and have to worry about, if I don't have time or whatnot.
That's brilliant. That's a great way to make STRs more like a real business and not just a side hustle.
For sure. Because most of the time when you're in a high income like W-2 or 1099, most of those people, their best time that they should be spent is probably in what is generating them like income, which is their job, right? Like most of the time, or their business, if they're, working professional, or they're a lawyer, or they're a doctor of some sort, or even like a online creator, because a lot of times I see so much online, where like creators are talking about, oh my gosh, I have this huge tax bill coming up, and they're always talking about, I'm making all this money, but then I have this tax bill coming up at the end of the year. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to help these individuals is help them find a Airbnb to cut down on their taxes through the STR loophole with the 100% bonus depreciation that's being brought back. Because a lot of them, it's really great that they know how to make money, but they don't know how to cut down on their taxes through real estate. And so, just by them focusing on what they're good at, making money, and then they using that money to then save their tax, use our services and save them on their taxes and save them on like the mistakes that they would have made, like the ones that I made early on when I first got started. I know that would have like saved me a ton of time if I was in that space. Obviously, I didn't start it out that way. I started out not even having, any idea what short-term rental was. And the way I got started on my first property was that I had reached out to a buddy of mine, and he was the one who helped me set up my first property. And it was very similar to what I'm doing for other people now, which is I lean on the expertise of this friend that I knew for a couple of years that was doing it before me for a couple of years. And in my mind, I thought he was a really, an expert and knew a lot of things and had a lot of properties. And then after we set up my first one, I asked him how many he has now. And he told me he had one. And so that goes to show it's like, you don't need a lot to be able to help someone else to kind of get get them started. But now that I am where I'm at, where we currently operate in 3 states. So, I have a lot more experience now. I have a team behind me now. And so it's much easier for me to be able to help people find a property and not have to do any of the guesswork and making the mistakes that I would have made.
Yeah, well said. So your first property, was that like an arbitrage that you did?
Yeah, my first property was an arbitrage. It was a property that I was actually managing as a long-term rental for my family member. And that was like very early on. I kind of started doing that, and it wasn't renting out well for about 2.5 months. And it was at this time starting to bleed, right? So that's when I reached out to that friend, and that's when they told me that this property is going to do really well. They kind of showed me a screenshot of what AirDNA, Rentalizer did back then. It was very simple. There wasn't much underwriting involved. It was kind of like, here's the numbers and this is what it's going to do. And, you kind of trust the process. And in my mind, it was, what's the worst case that can happen? If it doesn't work out, then I would probably just work more at my 1099 and then pay off the credit card. And then I would start over and figure out something else. Right. But from all the things that I've learned is only need to work once. Like you only need to succeed once. And then once that succeed, then you just repeat the process and until, you get where you want to go.
Part of the Dream Start On podcast is to start. And if you haven't started by getting your LLC, or if you need another LLC, use the link below to get with PCS, Prime Corporate Services, and they'll give you a consultation to walk you through getting your LLC. You can do it yourself, but they're going to walk you through it. They're not going to charge you extra than what you would pay doing it yourself. And they know how to set up the LLC appropriately to be protected, to get your operating agreement, and to make sure that you're coded correctly for the most business funding. Why do you want business funding? Because it doesn't affect your personal credit as much, and you can get so much more to help you scale faster, move faster, and grow faster. So use the link below to get your LLC set up with Prime Corporate Services. Now back to the episode. What do you think was it that kept your first property from being so slow those first 2.5 months?
Well, it wasn't slow. So the property, when I was renting it or helping manage to rent it as a long-term rental. So it wasn't renting out as a long-term rental. That's when I had reached out to my friend, and then they helped me set it up as a short-term rental. I subleased it from my family member. I said, hey, I'll become the tenant and I'm going to rent this place out. I furnished it with my money that I put into it. I maxed out all of my credit cards as a great real estate investor. On my personal credit cards, I don't recommend people doing that, obviously, but it was like all I had, that line of credit. And that was before I learned about business funding and, 0% credit funding and all of that. And that kind of helped me got started. And I took honestly, when I first set that property up, I thought it was going to make maybe like a couple $100 a month. But, you know, by the grace of God, and I think just at the right timing, it was during, during COVID, and it just kind of blew up. And, that property netted us about $2,000 to $2,500 a month, every month after everything is paid. So took all the money from that, moved it, saved it, and then put it into like the next property, and so on and so on.
Is that the moment that said, okay, I can scale this?
Yeah, for sure. Because at the time I was making around maybe 4 grand a month. And so, one property was making me two grand a month. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what it's supposed to be like. I built it once and then it keeps generating money. And so after I found that out, I just kind of doubled down on it. And eventually people reached out to me because they saw that I was doing well managing my own properties. Then I had friends reach out saying, hey, can you help me, can you help manage or co-host my properties? And so, that's kind of how it began.
Yeah, that proof of concept is amazing. Once you get it going, you get it flowing, you're like, wow, how can I make this go bigger? And you went with the credit cards, use your personal credit cards, and now learning into it using the business credit cards to help not affect your credit so much, to be able to get credit cards at interest free for 12 months, usually in general. All that is a huge way to help you scale, right? And doing that just frees you up and makes you just like, it gives you more energy to do more, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So for the audience too, rental arbitrage basically is you don't own the property, you're leasing it from somebody else, and then you're going to sublease it basically. In your case, you did Airbnb, right? Is that who you're using for your platform?
Yeah, I mean, we use a couple of mainstream ones, Airbnb, Verbo, and Booking.com. But it's all about exposure. So just trying to get in front of as many eyeballs as possible. But yeah, that's essentially it. It's essentially you're renting from a landlord, and you get their permission, obviously, and you then go and you furnish it, set it up, and then you then list it on these OTAs, the Airbnbs and the VRBOs and the Booking.com. Then you rent it out and you generate revenue, and minus the expenses of the rent and the maintenance and the cleaning and the Wi-Fi and the lawn service and all that good stuff, then you're left with, the profits at the end of the day. And hopefully you come out with something after all expenses are paid.
Yeah, your profit, not just the cash flow, the profit that you actually get to keep, your net, what stays in your pocket.
Exactly.
Going back to your first property or your first couple properties, what do you think was the biggest challenge you had to solve?
My biggest challenge that I had to solve was probably believing in myself and pulling the trigger, because I think that's with a lot of people, including myself, because I've tried so many things before and it did not work. This wasn't like my first venture. I've tried probably 5 to 7, 8 other ventures prior the last like decade, since I was in high school, and things have never kind of took off from what I've done. And so the biggest thing that I would tell anyone of when they're first getting started is like, if you've never had a track record of doing things well, or having success and having things take off, it's very scary to then keep putting money into something else that may work, and you start to possibly doubt yourself. But one tip I can really give someone is you have to be able to move from one opportunity to the next, or one mistake to the next, with as much excitement as you did when you first got started, because it can get very loom and doom very quickly especially early on when you don't have the experience or you don't have the skill set yet. So for me, the biggest part was believing in myself to say, okay, like what, instead of asking, what if this fails? Because things are going to fail. Like you're going to make mistakes. But what if it succeed, right? You have to ask yourself that question, because you have to remember it only needs to happen once, because once you can taste it and once you can see that things are going well, then all you have to do is just repeat what's already working. And for me, at that time, I didn't have a lot of money. The only money I had was probably a couple grand in my bank account. And I had about 15 to 20K in credit line in my personal credit cards. And that was just that moment I had to kind of bet on myself. And I'll tell you a little backstory. At first, I said, absolutely not. I'm not going to do it. Because when he told me it was going to take 15 to 20 grand to kind of furnish this 1,800 square foot house, right? It was going to take 15 to 20 grand. I said, absolutely not. I'm not doing it. Like, I don't know, where these people are dropping from the sky from, right? Like, how are they finding me? What happened if I set this up and like no one stay there? Because I think that's like the biggest concern and the biggest question. It's like, where are these people coming from? How do I know if someone's going to be able to pay enough for me to pay my expenses and still make enough afterwards, right? I think that's like the biggest question when you first get started. So that I had the same fear. And lucky for me, at the time, I was that same year, I moved out on my own and I was staying in an apartment with 2 other roommates. And it was around the same time where our lease was ending, and it was supposed to end at the end of the month. But my roommates and I had forgot to send in our letter of non-renewal 2 months prior. So the apartment made us stay an extra 2-3 months to cure, right? And so that way they can find a new tenant. And so they told me, Hung, we're not staying here. You can stay here. We'll still pay our share of the rent, but we're out of here. And so I said, hey, let me try out this Airbnb thing. Like, leave your furniture here. And if this thing works out, I will buy your furniture from you guys. So it was a much easier kind of startup cost. All I had to do was spend maybe another $1,000, $2,000 to furnish like the difference of like the living room and, my room and their rooms, right? Because they only took minimal stuff away. They left their bed, they left their table, they left most of their furniture, because it's technically a storage space until they can until they actually move out. So my idea was to rent it so that way I could live there for free. So all I'm trying to do is cover their rent for the month, so that way I can stay there for free and I don't have to go back home and look like a failure to my parents. So I set that up, and essentially within it was a 2-bed, 2-bath shared apartment. I was in my own apartment, or I was in my own bedroom, and I had my own bathroom. So it was a 3-3. So I listed it as a 2-2 shared bed and bath. And within a week, we got a 6-week booking for like $4,000. And our rent was $2,100. And it just blew my mind of what was possible. And I was like, I can't believe people are paying this amount. What is going on here? So it was my first time seeing that much money, seeing that someone was willing to pay that much money for, an apartment, a shared apartment. I mean, in my defense, our apartment was really nice. We were on the first floor and we had like 19 feet ceilings. It was really big. It was a nice apartment. Yeah, it was high. So that gave me kind of like the confidence, that, oh wow, like this is something. Well, that dream was very short-lived, because within a week to 2 weeks, I want to say, I got a call from the management that they found my listing and that I had to terminate it. So I ended up having to terminate it, but it gave me the proof of concept I needed to go back to that house and essentially commit and spend the money. So I was like, okay, let's do this, because now I see it. Now I believe it and I see it, and I have the proof of concept I needed. And so from then on, 1 turned to 2, 2 turned to 4, and now we have about 17, 18 properties under management right now. And so yeah, I mean, that would be the tip that I would give most people, is to believe in yourself.
That was amazing. When did you get to keep your 6-week listing, or did you have to cancel them out as well?
That's a good question. So I tried to. I gave a extensive instruction on what to do when they check in. The best thing about this apartment was that they didn't require a parking pass, and the only thing you need to get into the parking lot was a code for the gate that you press on the gate to get in. And I gave all the instructions. I gave all the instructions on how to get from the parking lot to our apartment. Super easy. And I said, whatever you do not go into the office, because they will not be able to help you. So the first thing that they did when they get there, they checked into the apartment, or they checked into the front desk. And I got a call from the front desk, and long story short, they gave me a call and they said, hey, these people can't get in there. So I had to refund them. I wanted to honestly just keep the money because they were so dumb. But yeah, I mean, it's like, no, I was so mad. I still remember where I was standing till this day when I got that phone call. But yeah, I mean, it everything turned out okay.
Yeah, I don't know why people don't listen, or if they just worry, or just they don't think about it, or they forget about it. They just, I don't know. I kind of had something too like that. I have a sober living property, and we had an operator that said they could do the get not tenants, but get members, get the house filled up. It's 2 stories, and they failed. 2 months in, they only had 2 members there, and I had to pivot, get another operator in place. So I kept upstairs for Airbnb only. The HOA, you're not supposed to have it, but I was like, I'm gonna do it until they ask to take it down. So what is it? Ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
Exactly.
So that helped out to keep the property cash flowing to be able to just keep the costs of all the utilities. It's a big old house.
Right.
Hey, for those of you that need some EMD, earnest money deposit, for your wholesale deals, or if you need to do a double close, or if you're doing a Morby method and you need that percentage gap funded, get with Josh Smith at Foundational Funding. Get the link below. He'll do transactional lending. He did it for me. We got a 4-plex, and he was able to help out with the 30% that we needed to get the deal knocked out. And excellent service they provided. They take care of all the details. And they spent a lot more time than I expected they would with the lenders to get it over the finish line. So tell Josh I sent you. The links below. Back to the episode. So this happened after you did your arbitrage or before?
This happened... No, this was before, because I started in the apartment first, and that's where I kind of got the proof of concept from.
Okay, amazing. So you didn't even get to do the full process, but you got so close to it that if they had said something to the wrong person, you would have been through it.
Exactly. So I didn't even receive the money, and nothing like that. I didn't even. All I saw was the reservation, and I saw the payout that I was going to get, and that was all I needed to see.
Heck yeah. So going back to your Airbnb now, your short-term rentals in general now, not just Airbnb, what do you say when you say world-class guest experience? What does that mean in practice?
That means that you have all you set the right expectation. You make sure that from the time that they've confirm their reservation, that they have all the information that they need, that by the time they get to the front door, they know how to get in and they know what to do. And worst case scenario, if they don't, we have on staff support team that, is reachable 24/7. So even if someone checks in at 4 a.m. because they're driving south from North Carolina to Florida at 4 a.m. and they can't get in because the smart lock is not smart anymore, then someone can give them instruction and to get in with our key that we have in the lockbox. But nowadays with technology and software, there are AI automation where if a guest says anything along the lines of, "Hey, I can't get in," or "the lock is not working," it can automatically catch that and send a instruction on how they can get in using the lockbox and where it's located and all that stuff, even without us having to, respond or give them a call.
Auto replies, those are great when it works.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
What do you think are 3 things that move reviews from good to 5 stars for your properties?
3 things that move from good to great reviews for 5 stars reviews.
Yeah. So what do you think your listings that you do specifically for your listings to get the top review when guests leave?
Gotcha. Well, I think the first thing is making sure that they have a seamless experience, making sure that all of their expectations, all of the amenities that you listed are as it says on the listing. For example, it would be a very tragic day if someone comes to a property with a pool and they paid for it to be heated, but it's not heated. And, that would be something very tragic, which, has happened to us in the past, but with systems and processes in place to make sure that we have those checklists of things in order, making sure that those things are turned on days beforehand, because heaters don't really, heat up a pool that quickly. Making sure those expectations are met before they step foot into the property. And so again, if your listing says one thing, make sure it has it. And then just little surprises that you can really do is having little things like we have in a lot of our, higher tier properties. We have cereal boxes, like from when you were in elementary school. We have cereal and we have little snacks and stuff like that for the family's kids. So we don't advertise that in our listing, but when they get there, they can see that. And like, if we can make them, happy that we're paying attention to small details and providing little amenities for like their kids and make them happy, like that will in turn, like little wins like that will really snowball. And by the end of their stay, I would say the last thing is making sure you ask for the 5-star, because a lot of times people won't leave a 5-star. Probably maybe 1 out of 10 might leave you a 5-star, but by just asking it, you're much more likely to get a positive review. So that way they know how important it is for your business. If you don't say it, they're not as likely going to do it. And again, if they have any issues during their stay, make sure you touch base with them and see if there's anything that you could do to alleviate any of that, concern before they check out. Because after they check out, they're you're kind of at the mercy of a lot of like what they say on the reviews. And so just making sure that you're on top of them, you're always responding on time. I think that's a really big one, because a lot of times you're competing against other mom and pop operators, and sometimes they don't get back to their guests within 10 minutes. A lot of times they get back within an hour or 2 hours, and by that time the guest doesn't really need you anymore, right? So just being responsive would be a big thing for, that can help that as well.
Yeah, excellent advice for people that are in the space and want to improve their ratings if they're having that issue. Something a little more specific. You're in the Orlando area. Do you have properties in that area as well?
Yeah.
So I assume the weather's similar to Houston, hot and humid.
For sure.
How do you manage the AC for like guests? Like ours, I try to keep it off or really, really high to where it's not running when people aren't there. What do you do to have it comfortable when they arrive?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So we have in almost all of our properties the Ecobee thermostat, and Ecobee thermostat is able to connect to our PMS system, which allows it to automatically turn off or set it to a certain temperature that we automatically have set it to. So that way the house, if it's at 65 when the guest checks out, it will automatically turn it to, we keep it at 78. It's not too hot, but it's not too cold either. And so, most of the time the outside temperature is like around 78, 80. And so 78 is just a good enough temperature to where, it's not running most of the time, but it keeps it cool enough to where humidity doesn't build up. And, you don't want it to turn off the AC either to where there's no airflow in the house and humidity builds up over time. So,
right.
so setting a automation where when a guest checks out, it automatically turns up the AC to 78 or 80 or something like that. It's really crucial, and it saves you a lot on electricity as well, because sometimes the cleaners doesn't do it, even though you tell them all the time, right? So, and then on the day of check-in, the AC is automatically, it turns on before the guest checks in to 75, which is like a pretty comfortable temperature.
That's a great tip. I have Nest. I don't think they have that option to integrate. So
I mean, we only use Hospitable, so we don't know if others are able to connect to Nest. But to my understanding, Hospitable only connects to Ecobee and one other brand that I can't remember right now.
Okay, Hospitable. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Hospitable. They're a PMS system that manages all of the OTA platform like Airbnb and Vrbo and Booking.com. So that way all the communication goes into one place. So that way you're not having to log onto Airbnb to talk to Airbnb guests, log onto Vrbo to talk to Vrbo guests, log onto Booking.com to talk to Booking.com guests. And so it's a kind of like a hub all in one. And there's really cool automations that you can set within your PMS system. And I highly recommend people set it up, because it's going to save you so much time and so much stress and so much bad reviews that you would have gotten if you didn't.
Do you think Hospitable is worth it if you only have one property on like Airbnb?
I think so, because I think with Hospitable, I think the first one or two properties you set up, I believe that they're free. So they're trying to get you to get into their system already. And why not? I mean, it's going to save you so much time and headache.
I'm taking notes. I'll be using that. Do you have an affiliate link or referral? Please send it to me.
I can definitely send you something.
Yeah, we're all about that. Entrepreneurs taking advantage and being able to promote the services that we use that will be helpful to others. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
We'll add it in the description below. Let's improve your sleep. Not by buying a new mattress or by changing your sleep time, your sleep hours, or how much sleep you're getting. As an entrepreneur, we know that you're not going to get more sleep most of the time. Check out 8 Sleep, the pod. It's a sheet that goes around your mattress, has these tubes where water runs through, and it'll adjust your temperature based on your preference. So you'll stay consistent temperature all night, and it'll adjust through the algorithm your consistent temperature. Sleep deeper at night, sleep better. My version I got was with the adjustable base. So when I'm snoring, it helps adjust it and reduce the snore, which is very good for myself to sleep longer. I toss and turn less, and my wife likes it too. Happy wife, happy life. Back to the episode. So what do you think some hosts overlook that cost them ratings?
What do I think some hosts overlook when it costs them ratings?
Yeah, so like if you take over a property, things that they were doing that was causing them to lose a star on the rating or get bad ratings. I know part of it is...
I would say it starts even before the guest checks in, which is I look at their listing and I see if there's anything that we need to improve before a guest, even look at before a guest even checks in. So, for example, if I know that the property itself is a little bit outdated, then it's just time for, then I would advise my potential client to say, hey, these are some of the things that I think that if you do to the property and you reinvest back into the property, it's going to do you wonders down the line. And no amount of customer service and hospitality, mojo is going to be able to help you overcome, all of this, guest experience and customer satisfaction, because you're already coming in, at a disadvantage if your property is not set up well from the very beginning. Like if it doesn't have the right amenities, if it's got old sheets, if it's got old throw pillows, if it's got teared up bath towels, which I have been to, unfortunately, some, and on the guest end of it, once you experience it, like it makes a huge difference by just changing some of those things out, because nowadays the customer is much more savvy. They have a lot more options and selections in the market. And so if your property is still in the same setup that you had during COVID or pre-COVID, then you're just going to lose. Like you're spiraling downward unless you change something. So
yeah, guest experience, customer experience is the hugest thing. Creating the memories for the individuals is what's going to get you wins.
Experience nowadays.
Yeah, 100%. When you started getting more into properties, what do you think was the first thing you decided to delegate?
100% guest communication.
And did you do that through like a VA?
Yeah, I did that through a VA. And actually, it wasn't even my decision. A friend of mine forced me to. He said, Hung, someone is coming in this Friday and they're going to start working for you and you're going to start paying them. Because I was so reluctant to let that go, because my ego was, no one can respond as well as me. And that's probably true until they do, because you are only doing it for 10, 20, 30% of your time. But this person that you're hiring, they're going to be doing it for 80 to 100% of their time. That's all they're going to be focusing on. So eventually they're going to get better than you. But, early on, the letting go of the control of that is tough, because sometimes they respond in a way where you wouldn't have responded that way. And now you have to kind of come up with standard procedures on what is your persona that you want to come off as to the customer. And that is how you train them. And eventually you can duplicate yourself by teaching them and, training them on how to respond correctly. So that way they can respond very much similar to you. So that way you can get the 5 stars that you're looking for.
Yeah, 5 stars is super important. That's an amazing friend that you have there. That says,
yeah,
hey,
yeah, no. Early on, I will say it was very hectic, because I was still, I was handling every single message up until I had 7, 8 properties. And I was still working my 1099 job, and I was in my family's business. I worked at a nail salon, and as I was doing pedicures and manicures for customers, I would get a notification of guests coming in and the lock wasn't working. So I had to run to the back and answer them and call and X, Y, and Z. And, what I think would have been just 1 or 2 minutes away, I would be back there for 10, 15 minutes. And then I would get yelled at by my family and saying, where am I at? Why aren't I working? And all that good stuff. And so that was kind of like the situation I was in early on. I was answering every single messages when I was going out on dates with my then, girlfriend, but now wife, right? I was in the middle of my dinner or my date or whatever. I was answering messages of things coming up, and I could see that it was an issue, and so I'm thankful that I was able to overcome that and hire someone and not have to handle that anymore. So yeah, I would say that one of the first hires should be to hire someone to handle your messaging.
Yeah, VA, virtual assistants, for those of you that don't know, remote worker, being able to access to it and to be able to communicate, because communication can take a while. I've had people ask me like the simplest questions: what's close to here to eat? What's this and that? Like, there's Google Maps. Doesn't everybody use that? But you have to understand that a lot of your clients will be the guests will be from overseas and probably don't use that or don't have it as hashed out as it is in wherever your Airbnb is. Speaking of you getting married, congratulations, you're newlywed, 6 months in.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I was checking out your Instagram. You have an amazing wedding that looked like there. So if y'all want to get a peek at that and learn a little bit more about Hung Mai, and what's your wife's name?
Jin. Jin, like
Jin.
ginger.
Oh, okay, Jin. And shout out to her. Congratulations, you two, and to many, many years of happiness between you two.
Thank you, brother.
Definitely. So if somebody has one property and they're looking to just, what should they set up now so they can scale later? One of them is the communication. Any other suggestions?
What should they set up now? I mean, I think one of the many things that they can set up is, depending on it, a lot of it depends on the type of properties, but probably some of the things that I can think of is set up a noise monitoring system. We use Minute, which helps you to monitor the noise level of the inside of the property, but it doesn't record it doesn't record any audio or anything like that. It just monitors the level of the noise. So that way, that there's no party going on, or that after a certain hour that it has to be below, that threshold. So that way you're not bothering the neighbors, because that's a huge one as well. You don't want to be that property that is causing issue for the, main residence that is on your left and your right. I always say, like, that's your number one guest is your neighbors. You don't want to piss them off. So you have to make sure you install a noise monitor is the first thing. Set up all the automation of messages of guests, all the things that they need to check in, like confirming that they have, that their checking is good, confirming that, on this day they're staying at this place at this address, confirming that, this is their checkout day, right? And they're confirming what is the checkout list of things that they should be doing or not doing. And then asking for the 5-star review. And if there's anything that didn't deserve it, can they let you know, so that way you can work out some kind of agreement, so that way they don't leave you a savage review and you're going to have to, go back on it. And probably one thing that I would add as a bonus that I think most people, when they first get started, don't think about, is that as people are staying at your property, trash is going to be an issue. Who's going to take it out? If no one monitors it, eventually no one's going to take it out. And eventually you're going to have an issue where trash is going to pile up in your trash can and they're going to have no place to put it. And then maggots and flies are going to come everywhere, right? It is not fun. What I have is, and this is a bonus tip, is if you know what day your trash is happening, you can have a automated message the day prior asking if the guest can help you pull out the trash bin. And if they're able to help you, maybe you can give them like a $20 or $30 Starbucks voucher or gift card or something like that, and ask them to pull it back in the following day, right? And so that in turn will help you a lot because the thing is, you're going to have to spend the money anyways. So why not give it to the guests and, give them a little reward for doing something for you, in that situation.
I like that, to be able to incentivize them to do that. I know I put it in hours that these are the days if they would, but I didn't consider incentivizing them, which is an amazing way to get them to do it and help you out, and they get a little bonus and they feel like they did something.
Exactly.
Awesome. And then, so automations is one of the biggest things. Your door lock, the thermostat, communication for like check in, check out, and the most common questions they'll ask, like, hey, the lockbox isn't working. Any other automations that you can think of?
Any other automations that I can think of? I would probably say it also depends on the property. Like I said, if you have certain amenities that needs a little bit more hand holding, like for instance, one of our properties have a heated pool amenity, right? We have a pool and then we have the heater as well, but we don't keep the heater on all the time or else it's going to be very expensive for us. So a couple of days before our guests arrive, probably 3 or 4 days prior, there's an automated message asking the guests if they would like for the pool to be heated. If they do, they pay a fee. So that's an additional revenue stream that if you want to provide, it can actually really pay for itself within a year, I would say, of what the cost of the pool heater is. And just have someone, either your cleaner or a task runner, to go and turn that pool heater on for you, a couple days prior, before the guest arrives. So that way it has enough time to heat up. But I would say that's a good way to generate revenue. Another good way too is potentially allowing people to check in early or check out later. We always ask people if they'd like to check in earlier or check out later. But I give that kind of as a tool in the tool belt for my team, that if it's their special event or something going on and we can accommodate, then we let them know. Usually we charge for this, but because you're here for your birthday, we'd love to accommodate. So like you kind of build a little bit of goodwill for their stay as much as you can. Great ideas there.
Is there a set fee that you have for late checkout or early check-in?
So for early check-in, I think most of the time we just charge $30. It was like I think $40 or $50 for check-in at like 1 p.m. I think is like the earliest, or late checkout to 1 p.m. Is like the latest, for up to $50 or something like that.
Okay, similar to what I do. I think we do $15 per hour for early check-in, and then late checkout, if we're able to accommodate, we'll do, I think it's $35.
Yeah. I mean, if they do it early on, then it's one price, and then if they do it the night before, then we actually charge a little bit more.
Good idea. I like that.
Yeah.
But I think for us, we wait till the last minute to decide because we can get a booking at the last minute, and then I don't want to charge them extra for that because they were waiting on us. But yeah, that's a good idea either way. Where do you think most hosts lose the most money or like lose profit on their property when they're managing it?
Not knowing how to do price revenue management. I think that's probably the biggest skill that if you're going into this business is knowing how to price manage, revenue manage. And the biggest profit center, or one of the biggest profit center, is probably their Monday through Wednesday, that people are not able to book those nights because they're much harder to book, obviously. But you have to know how to price things and provide discounts to those nights to be able to get those things filled. Because if you just imagine, the only time that you get things booked is, let's say, Thursday to Sunday, and you leave Monday to Wednesday or Monday to Thursday open, that is essentially almost 30 to 50% of your revenue
Available
and
booking days.
if you just get those things booked, because your expenses are all the same anyway, so why does it matter that you cut down and give a deep discount for Monday through Wednesday? That's just additional profit, pure profit that you would have made if you just get those Monday through Wednesday night booked. And it might be 30 to 60% of a discount from what you would have charge on your Thursday to Sundays. But again, your expenses are the same, or, for the most part, they're the same. Your rent or your mortgage is going to stay the same. Your utilities might go up a little bit, but it's insignificant. Your cleaning fee are already paid for by the guests, so that's not going to be an issue. And so that revenue is just extra. Most people in their listing probably have an extra $1,500 to $4 or $5,000 in extra profit in their Monday through Wednesday night that they're not getting through. And that's just knowing how to do revenue management.
Yeah, excellent said, because getting something is better than getting zero. So choose that, and dynamic pricing is super important, right? Because you can't set it one time and just leave it alone. You got to stay consistent with the market, what's happening in that area, what other competition might be there, how they're pricing it, so you can be able to get bookings.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was guilty of that early on as well, thinking that I could just set it once and I don't have to think about it anymore. And to be honest, early on, it was that easy. It was like you set it and you forget it, and it was like always coming in, and it was great. Like that early on during COVID, like it was amazing. But then eventually the market got smarter, and customers, have a lot more options to go for now versus before.
Definitely. I know we're a little short on time now, so we're going to do some quick things. Best advice you've ever gotten for business?
Best advice I ever gotten for business is fail forward much faster. A lot of us are in analysis paralysis, and we think we have to know everything to get started. And because of that, you're not taking the chances, and you're not, learning quicker by making mistakes. There was this one university professor that split his art class into two, right? One side is in charge of creating the perfect art piece by the end of the week, and the other class is in charge of making the most quantity of pictures by the end of the week. And by the end of the week, the results was that the the side that was in charge of making the perfect art piece, they weren't able to achieve what they wanted because they never tried enough. Like they just kind of focus on the one thing that they had to do, by making it perfect, trying to make it perfect. And the other side, they didn't have constraint of having to make the picture perfect. Their success meter was that they just had to do the most amount of paintings in by the end of the week. And by having a lot of reps in and doing a lot of quantity, they were able to make a lot of mistakes. They were able to get a lot of reps in, and by default, their picture was much better looking than the one side that was in charge of making the perfect picture, right? And so failing forward as fast as possible, it's going to get you much further ahead than trying to be perfect and having to know everything and then going and doing it, yourself after that. I would say that that's probably the biggest thing.
Invaluable perspective there. You've experienced it yourself a couple of times. You've already explained with your apartment Airbnb that didn't go through, then with hiring that VA that was pushed on you. So progress over perfection, fell forward. If you're just sitting there learning and doing this, you're just getting entertained, and that's not going to help you with your entrepreneur, with your business. Where do people find you, Hung Mai, to be able to work with you or to just see what you got going on?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram, Hung, Hung, V as in Victor, Mai. And so, they can find me through there. Shoot me a message if they have any questions on short-term rental, or, if they'd like me to help underwrite some deals that they have going on. I might have a short-term rental calculator that I can give if they want to send me a message.
Excellent. And then you've listened to this episode and you've hearing this, you're like, man, this is a lot for me to do. It's going to be a lot for me to find people to manage my Airbnb, to do this communication, to try to automate this. If you don't want to do that, reach out to Hung Mai. He's going to have the do it for you system, work together and get your stuff going. Because one of the things for a lot of you people that are making money, paying taxes, the easiest way to increase your money is to keep what you've already made. And
Amen.
Getting short-term rentals, using the loops, you can use that to be able to keep a lot of the money you've already made. Not just make more, keep what you've already made, which will be able to increase your spending. Hung, this is super valuable. Appreciate you being here. For everybody watching or listening, go connect with Hung Mai and check out VIP Kasa Rentals. If you get value from this, like the episode, subscribe, and please share it with somebody that you think may be able to use this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you so much. This is Dream Start Own. I'm Edgar Connector, and I will see you at the next one. Be sure to catch this other episode to start your dreams and own your time like these other guests have.